We're talking hockey. The NHL returns to game action tonight after taking the last week off for a bit of a winter break amid the surge of COVID cases affecting many teams, and that includes the Sabres. They have had a few players on the COVID list in recent weeks. They returned to practice yesterday. They're scheduled to play tomorrow night. So tonight we have brought in our WGRZ hockey analyst Paul Hamilton. Paul, we're glad you're with us, and we want to just start with the state of the Sabres. Who's on the COVID list, and what is that process like as far as what it takes to be able to return to team activities? We've sort of talked about it as far as the Bills go, but what's the deal with the NHL?
Well, it's a PCR lab test that they must take and be negative 2 days in a row if they're asymptomatic. So that gets them off the list then once that happens. None of them will be able to come back tomorrow should the Sabres play the New Jersey Devils, and right now it looks like they're going to. So, of course, they had to call some guys up from Rochester, and that includes Jeff Skinner, Zemgus Girgensons, and Coach Don Granato is also part of that, too. So he's doing okay, though, because you might remember he had a very serious illness about 2 years ago, and it didn't look good for him back then, but he has been asymptomatic. He's fine, and he's just waiting to get those 2 negative tests so he can come back. So that's great news that he has not felt any symptoms.
Yeah, great news there. Certainly important to note. As long as nothing changes here, the Sabres' first game back from the break will be at KeyBank Center tomorrow night against the New Jersey Devils, and that should be the debut of Alex Tuch, the biggest piece of the Jack Eichel trade. And it's worth noting he's also been out injured since before the trade was even made, but he's not the only new face that Sabres fans should be seeing tomorrow night.
Well, Peyton Krebs, who was also a return from that trade for Jack Eichel, also will be making his Sabre debut. He'll be one of the guys coming up from Rochester, filling in for the guys out for COVID. So that's very exciting. He's going to be a big piece of this team going forward. And you should see the smiles on him and J.J. Peterka, who's going to make his NHL debut, and even Alex Tuch. He rooted for the Buffalo Sabres. He's from Syracuse. This is his team. And he couldn't be more excited that he's going to be in the lineup. He had shoulder surgery. That's why we haven't seen him yet. He's coming back probably half a month to a month early, but he's ready to go, and people are going to be pleased to see this player. He's a very good player. He's only 25 years old and should be here for years to come.
We wanted to also ask you about the Olympics as well, because the NHL announced last week that it won't be allowing its players to play in this winter's Olympics in Beijing. So who can USA hockey fans actually expect to see playing in China? And could the list potentially include someone like Sabres draft pick Owen Power, who's still playing in college right now?
He is. Owen Power is playing in the World Junior Tournament for Team Canada, which just got underway the other day. He scored a hat trick as a defenseman in his first game at the World Juniors. So he absolutely could be somebody that Canada would be interested in. But Kevin Adams, the Sabres general manager, said he would be part of those discussions. I don't know if he'd be real thrilled about having him get over there. Players that get COVID, once they're over in China, could be there for over a month. That's one of the reasons why the NHL isn't letting players go over, and players are upset about it. They're speaking out. Marchand of the Bruins spoke out today. They're upset that they're not going, even though that could happen to them. So I don't know about Power. He definitely could be a guy who could make Canada's team, but I don't know if Kevin Adams is real thrilled about that.
Well, more to come. We've been joined by our hockey analyst, Paul Hamilton. Paul, always a pleasure. We're so glad to have you here, and I'm glad to finally meet you in person after all this time as well.
Thanks for having me. It's been great to meet you also.
Thanks again. And thanks, everybody, for joining us here on the Town Hall. Reminder, if you want to get in touch, if you have questions, if you have comments, this is the number to use, 716-849-2220.